Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Petrus, a lieutenant in the Public Affairs Office here at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. It is good to be back. I've missed being here, so Hunter, it's good to see you. It's good to see everybody else this morning. This past weekend on Saturday, August 5th, CMPD officers responded to a fatality crash that occurred in the Steel Creek Division on West Arrowwood Road. We distributed a media release for that incident on Sunday, August 6th, to provide details on the initial investigation, and we're here today to provide some additional details on the continued investigation. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're going to do this first part in English fully, and then for the benefit of any Spanish-speaking folks in our community, we're going to do an abbreviated second version that's going to be in Spanish. So we'll get to that part just after this first part, okay? So for everyone's benefit, let me recap the information from the initial investigation that we've already put out in the media release on Sunday. Officers responded to a two-vehicle crash in the 2000 block of West Arrowwood Road on Saturday, August 5th. That's in the Steel Creek Division. Upon arrival, they located a Ford Mustang off the roadway against a tree with damage on the passenger side of the vehicle. The driver of the Mustang had sustained serious injuries and was transported by medic towards a local hospital. The officers also located a Chevrolet Camaro on the scene that had front end damage. The driver of this Camaro had fled the scene on foot after the crash. Thanks to information provided by witnesses on the scene, and thanks to the fantastic work of the responding initial officers, that driver was quickly located and taken into custody. Tragically, the 17-year-old driver of the Ford Mustang died while en route to the hospital. His name was Ivan Morales Galvez. Because of the death resulting from the crash, detectives with the Major Crash Investigation Unit responded to the scene to conduct the investigation. The initial investigation showed that the Mustang was on West Arrowwood Road and was making a left turn onto Bramblewood Drive, which is a residential neighborhood. The Camaro, the Chevrolet Camaro, was driving straight on West Arrowwood Road and was driving at a high excessive rate of speed. That Camaro struck the Mustang on the passenger side, causing the crash. The driver of that Camaro, as I mentioned, was arrested on scene and charged with second-degree murder, felony hit-run, and speed racing competition. He has been identified as Paulo Alexis Ramos Avila. Date of birth is 7/16 of 1999. That's the synopsis of the media release of the initial investigation that we put out on Sunday. Now to provide further information, Deputy Chief Tanya Arrington is going to come and provide that information. Chief.
Hey everyone, I appreciate you coming out today. Like you said, my name is Tanya Arrington. I'm a Deputy Chief with Special Services Group. As Lieutenant Petrus stated, due to the fatality, CMPD major crash detectives responded to the scene to investigate the incident. The detectives have worked tirelessly on this case, and as a result of their continued efforts, they determined the Camaro involved in the crash was engaged in spontaneous street racing with another Camaro on Arrowwood Road. So just to be clear, we have two Camaros that were racing each other on Arrowwood Road. One Camaro struck the victim's vehicle. That driver was arrested on scene, and that's the arrest that Lieutenant Petrus alluded to. The other Camaro did not collide with the victim's vehicle and never stopped at the scene of the crash. Detectives were later able to identify the driver of the second Camaro as Javoris Williams, date of birth 12/10/1987. Last night, our detectives took Mr. Williams into custody and charged him with second-degree murder, reckless driving, speed racing competition, and they were also able to seize his vehicle. Based on the evidence collected at the scene, detectives estimate the Camaro's speeds were around 100 miles per hour in a 45-mile-per-hour zone. That's over double the posted speed limit. Ivan never stood a chance. This case is heartbreaking, and what makes it so heartbreaking is it was preventable. The life of a young 17-year-old teenager was cut short because two people made a decision to act recklessly and engage in street racing. The parents lost a son. Ivan was driving home from work, turning into his neighborhood. He was almost home. As a parent of a teenager, it strikes close to home. So my heart and prayers go out to Ivan's family. You've heard us talk a lot about street takeovers, spontaneous, and enraged street racing. As shown today, these are not innocent, victimless acts. They're acts that lead to horrific, life-altering consequences. And this is not a one-off. SHP investigated a previous street racing fatality on 485 about a month ago. As you can see by the charges listed today, we will not tolerate these egregious acts. And we will use the full extent of the law to include seizing your vehicle to ensure no one else has to lose a loved one.
Deputy Chief Arrington can take a couple questions if you have them now.
The new law that went into place in the state, did that play any part into this and the charges that were brought on this? Did that help, or was that something different for this case?
So that doesn't go into effect until December. And so, we kind of discussed that. Would that have prevented this? And with it being spontaneous, no, not necessarily.
Go for it. Go ahead.
Do you know if it was just two drivers? Were they part of a larger group that we generally see in these takeovers?
No, so we wouldn't classify this as being part of a larger group or street takeover, and that's kind of why we refer to it as spontaneous street racing. So two individuals, it's not planned, it's not prearranged, not part of a larger group, but they get together and for whatever reason they decide to race down the road.
Ramos Avila had told detectives that he was coming back from Compare Foods. What else did he tell you? Did he know this guy he was racing? What may have sparked them to start racing? Just two Camaros?
Yeah, I don't have that information.
What can you tell us about the victim? You said he was on his way home, but what have y'all learned about the person he was, the person lost here?
I don't know the specifics about him other than him being 17 years old, coming home from work. So I would assume he's a responsible young man just trying to make it home to his family.
You guys found one of the suspects there at the scene. Talk about the work, though. How on earth did y'all find the person he was racing after he left the scene?
So I think it goes back to the phenomenal work of our detectives. My understanding is they were able to get some video. From that video, we were able to identify the second vehicle, and from that, they were able to locate the driver and place him under arrest last night.
Have any of these suspects been involved in previous street racing, street takeover stunts, to your knowledge?
No, these were two names that were not familiar with us.
I know this entire year we've been talking about street takeovers. Where does this take things and the battle against this here in Charlotte now that we have a death that has happened here?
Yeah, so we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, right? And that's why we've been very aggressive in our approach to street racing to ensure it does not grow like we've seen in other parts of the nation. And, I think this new bill is really going to give us some teeth to prevent it from growing, because not only can we charge those involved, but we can also charge those spectators and ones that are blocking the streets and stuff. So, I think a lot of people see it as victimless, innocent, no harm, just driving down the street. But like I said, we've had 2 deaths in about a month, and it's anything from that.
Avila, or Ramos Avila, I should say, where was he found? Was he trying to hide out there nearby the scene after running away?
Yes, that's correct.
But hiding where? I mean, where was he found?
My understanding was he was in some bushes close to a house, and officers were able to locate him. I believe some citizens assisted in kind of pointing in the direction that he was last seen running.
it's kind of hard as a driver, of course, I would imagine, to see this even coming when you're just turning into your neighborhood, is what it sounded like. But what is the department's message? Because that's a residential area, and street racing is even happening there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message is that we will not tolerate this, that we will use the full extent of the law to prevent it from happening again. And then once again, the message is it's not victimless, it's not innocent behavior. There are consequences for it. So these two individuals, their lives are forever changed. Their family's lives are forever changed. Ivan's family, forever changed.
Will there be any type of launch of a task force, something to tackle street racing and takeovers here in the city?
I don't think we're at a point where we need necessarily a quote-unquote task force. I think with the enforcement efforts that we've had, we've been able to work with individuals that are wanting to do legitimate meetups. I think it was this past weekend, we had like 125 cars that met up at a location, people behaving themselves, they weren't doing burnouts and stuff like that. We support that all day long. But to the ones that are out there, that handful that just enjoy trying to do burnouts, spontaneous street racing, arranged street racing, this won't be tolerated.
And I guess one more question. I guess looking at the activity over the past 8 months, has activity decreased, increased? Is it roughly the same? Anything?
We've seen it decrease. What we've seen is the activity decrease, and then it kind of spread out to some of the outlying areas.
All right, thank you, Deputy Chief. So on behalf of the entire Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, I want to extend our heartfelt condolences to the family of Ivan Morales-Galvez. This case is an example of careless behavior with a vehicle resulting in tragic consequences. And that's the problem with careless actions is you never know the end result, you never know the ending. And that's why they're extremely dangerous. And that is why they need to be avoided, and we need to put a stop to this. CMPD will continue to investigate this case to completion, and we do ask that if there's anyone who has who witnessed this crash or has any additional information regarding the case, to contact Crime Stoppers at 704-334-1600 so that we have the opportunity to speak to you. I do want to thank again all the witnesses who have already spoken to officers and detectives on this case. Witnesses on scene, as you heard, gave crucial information to the initial responding officers that led to the arrest of the first suspect in the case, the one that was arrested on scene. And I want to thank those who have continued to speak with detectives and assist as the investigation has progressed. I want to recognize the work of the officers on the initial investigation and the work of the entire transportation unit here at CMPD, which the major crash unit is a part of, for their tireless work in bringing justice in this case. We have sent out a media release, an updated media release, for the benefit of all the folks watching and our media partners here. For those of you at home, if you'd like to access that, feel free to go to our social media sites so that you can take a look. Thanks all for being here, and in just a few moments we'll get started with the second one. All right, thanks.